Do 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 do. Hey everybody, how's it going out there? Welcome to our Sunday Night Live call-in show. Just singing to the music a little bit there, and I just want to thank everybody for joining us, and all those who'll be joining us later. I see it's the Johnson, No Teeth Allowed Johnson in the house, D.A. Archer, Nicholas Griffith, Kubla Kid 46. And Shonda Greb looked like she stopped by earlier to say hi. So welcome, everybody. And a lot of news to get to. As you saw, Trump imposed, threatened to impose, that he will impose, he's going to impose 5% sanctions, 5% tariffs, rather, I apologize, on all imported goods from the country of Mexico beginning June 10th if they don't get a handle on this immigration issue. And this story will show the Mexicans are sending an emergency delegation to D.C. because, of course, they don't want 5%. Then, of course, that number only goes up. July 1st, it goes to 10%, August 1st, 15%, September 1st, 20%, and October 1st, 25%. That'll be disastrous to the Mexican economy. And I do mean disastrous. We are their largest trading partner. They export to us something like $380 billion a year in goods and merchandise, farm products, you name it. So they don't want that to happen. And Trump's right; they can't stop it. And I see somebody here that says Nicholas says talks cheap. Well, Trump tweeted the same thing, so you'll be happy to see that. So let's go ahead and get to that story. And it's a live call-in show, 775-273-8970. If I don't know you, if I don't recognize the number, you'll get the zombie. To those of you who've been on the site before, they know what that means. Don't fret, no big deal. But if I do know you, I'll put you right on. But if I don't know you, get the zombie until I get you sorted out and everything. Just trying to keep it clean, keep it clean on YouTube. YouTube looks for any reason to zap us off, so we got to make sure we play a little defense with these guys. It's the way it works. So anyway, let's get to the story and let's get going. All right, China, Mexico signal willingness to step up trade talks with the United States. Mexico sends delegation to Washington to discuss immigration issues. This is from Josh Zumbrum and Yoko Kubota of the Wall Street Journal. Just to let you know, the Wall Street Journal is not the friendliest newspaper in the world to Donald Trump, but sometimes the only ones who are out there covering these stories as they happen. And let's see, China and Mexico both signaled a willingness to negotiate with Washington over escalating trade issues, while the Trump administration took to the airwaves to defend its use of tariffs to gain concessions from trading partners. A lot of guys in the administration went on the Sunday morning talk shows, if any of you caught them. Beijing released on, now we can talk about China, Beijing released on Sunday a government policy paper on trade issues, accusing Washington of scuttling the negotiations, which broke down in all but name in May. It said the Trump administration's America First program and use of tariffs are harming the global economy. No, it's just harming China's economy. Yeah, that's, if they weren't, trust me, if it wasn't harming them, why would they be so mad? When's the last time China was looking out for the whole world? China's concerned about the global economy. They're concerned about the other people in the world, not just the Chinese. What a nice group of people. Wow. I guess we were wrong about them. Nah, amazing. Anyway, and that China wouldn't shy away from a trade war if need be. Trust me, it'll hurt them way, way more than it hurts us. When you have over $500 billion in a trade deficit, which means, they're exporting $500 billion more to us than we are to them. They're the ones with the most to lose in any kind of trade war. That's just the truth of the matter. Trump can slap tariffs on $200 billion worth of their goods. They respond back with $60 billion of our goods. Not to mention, a lot of the goods that they take in from us, they need. I mean, they need to build up their economy, to build up their military. So if they're slapping tariffs on things that they need that they're going to buy from us anyway, that's just going to hurt them. But throughout the document and at the briefing, the government suggested a willingness to return to negotiations. The Chinese are tough negotiators, okay? Anybody feel sorry for the Chinese? I mean, that's just ridiculous. They're tough negotiators. Trump's a tough negotiator. Our guys, Leichhizer, out there, and Mnuchin, not so much Mnuchin, but Leichhizer for sure is a tough guy. He hates China to the core. And, they're in a fight. I mean, that's what deals look like. Deals look like a fight until they get done. Then when they get done, everybody's like, whoosh. It's like a big withdrawal symptom. I've done some, not deals like this, but I've been involved in some deals, and it'll go back and forth, and everybody's hammering it out, and it gets kind of emotional and loud once in a while, too, and kind of nasty. And then when you get it done, it's hilarious because you're like, oh, shit, hey, happy to get it done. Realize everybody was kind of posturing and trying to, go strong to try to get the best deal possible. But at the end of the day, you know your number, they know their number, and it's just a question. You don't want to give your number up too quick because then they'll split the baby twice. If you split the baby, then they come back and split the baby the second time, that's no fun. So you always got to be careful not to split the baby too quick. And that's what's going on here, just on a much larger level. So let's see. So this is the Chinese. We're willing to adopt a cooperative approach to find a solution. The language like that that's telling you something that they want to talk. In fact, the Wall Street Journal, again, not big Trump fans, even put that quote in the little kind of made it a little bit bigger there on the fonts. We're willing to adopt a cooperative approach to find a solution. Well, the market should be happy about that tomorrow, and not so much and the fact that the Mexicans are sending somebody up here. So probably when the Dow opens tomorrow, it's not going to be the disaster, but it was predicting it was going to be. Anyway, to the Mexico story. Mexico, meanwhile, rushed a delegation to the U.S. to discuss immigration issues, following the Trump administration's threat last week to impose tariffs on all Mexican goods entering the U.S. if the Mexican government fails to take aggressive measures to stem the flow of immigrants through Mexico and into the U.S. See, Mexico, and then Trump tweeted this: Mexico is sending a big delegation to talk about the border. President Trump wrote on Twitter on Sunday afternoon. Problem is, they've been talking, quote unquote, talking for 25 years. We want action, not talk. They could solve the border crisis in one day if they so desired. So there you go, Nicholas. He's right there on the same page you are. He's not, just going to, looking for talk right now. I mean, this June 10th thing, that's kind of quick. He said it fast, too. And remember, Congress was gone, so I think they're coming back Tuesday. I can't remember when they're coming back. But, so they've been gone for most of this, and there's really not much Congress can do unless they can do a two-thirds majority in both houses. They need a veto-proof majority in both houses to undo this tariff that he's getting ready to impose on Mexico on June 10th. And I don't think the votes are there, so we'll see. And let's see. Otherwise, and this is the best, one of the best quotes too. Trump writes, "Otherwise, our companies and jobs are coming back to the USA." He said. In other words, it's like, okay, well, we'll do this tariff, and if you're not happy with it, well, these companies are just going to come back to the United States. Have a nice day. So the Trump administration is aggressively using tariffs to gain concessions on two fronts: China and Mexico. The two largest sources of U.S. imports face the possibility of hefty new tariffs in the coming weeks, with the U.S. threatening to apply an escalating 5% tariff on all Mexican imports, or about $350 billion of goods, starting June 10th, while also threatening a 25% tariff on an additional $300 billion of Chinese imports that could begin later in the month. Beijing's modulating rhetoric over the weekend took the form of a government policy paper on trade issues. Rah, 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 rah. We already talked about that. Though no talks are currently scheduled, senior U.S. and Chinese finance and trade officials are expected to attend meetings of the group of 20 major economies during the coming weekend in Japan. A possible meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping of China at the G20 summit is seen by many analysts on both sides as a chance to put talks back on track. And they go on to say China is expressing its wish to work together, said Zhang Zhazeng, a researcher of the state-backed think tank China Center for International Economic Exchanges. So basically, when that's coming out of this, government-backed think tank, that's the Chinese government talking through their think tank without talking through their think tank. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're sending messages, and they're sending messages to the markets also. Because look, they don't want the U.S. Stock market to go down. Also, their markets are over there in Hong Kong, et cetera, are tied directly to our market, so they're not looking forward to anything going down either. Albeit they do a much better job of a stimulus. Hey, Shonda, how you doing? Hey, Bruce, how you doing there? Let's see. And so yeah, they do a much better job of stimulus packages in that they do it automatically. Like they'll just put money right into the banks. They'll buy up stocks of companies that they think are going to be in decline to keep the price artificially high, and they do it fast. I mean, like they'll come up with a plan like on Tuesday, and Wednesday they're buying stocks or dumping money into a bank. Not like in here where it takes months and months and months to get a bill through. Let's see, China. Let's see, the White House declined to comment on Sunday. The threatened tariffs on all Mexican imports would begin at 5% and rise by 5 percentage points each month before reaching 25% in October unless Mexico takes satisfactory action to halt the migrants, the U.S. has said. Several lawmakers, business groups, and economists, of course, criticized the plan, saying it could potentially derail the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. It hasn't been ratified yet. It's funny. The funny thing about this is that, Trump came back and say, well, hell, the Democrats say they want all these changes to it anyway, so it really hasn't been ratified yet. So who gives a shit about it? Because obviously the Democrats don't care, and maybe they'll make the Democrats be fast to ratify the deal. So that's one good thing that can come out. But anyway, two top Trump administration officials defended the president's planned new tariffs on Mexico, saying they are needed to stem the flow of migrants into the U.S. and won't harm the U.S. economy. Acting Homeland Security Secretary Kevin McClellan, speaking Sunday on CNN, defended the Mexican tariffs, saying, the bottom line for me is that we need them at the table looking at new strategies that we can aggressively move out on. The Mexican embassy in D.C. didn't respond to requests for comment Sunday. President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, this guy has a lot of names, of Mexico called last week for deeper dialogue on the migration issue. Yeah, dialogue, yeah, like you said in the chat there, Nick, yeah, talk is cheap. Migration issue, said his government is doing what it can to curb the flow of migrants across Mexico without violating human rights. Oh, bullshit. You let them walk down the highway. Grab a couple of school buses, a whole bunch of school buses, grab a bunch of zip ties, and just like escort them into the school buses, have them head south, down to the Guatemala border and just, tell them, there you go. you're back home again. That's not violating anybody's human rights. Sorry, it just isn't. Acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney has said the tariffs aren't limited to trade negotiations with Mexico. Some GOP lawmakers in Congress don't share Mr. McMulvaney's uh, interpretation. And then Senator, I think it was a mistake, this is John Kennedy of Republican Louisiana, said Sunday on CBS. I'm not saying it won't work. President, and then he goes on to say, President Lopez has already indicated that he's willing to talk, but I worry about the long-term ramifications. We have a deal with Mexico on trade. It's called NAFTA, Mr. Kennedy added. In fact, we just shook hands on a new deal. It's called NAFTA 2. When you give your word, you stick to it. Well, okay, you give your word, but we have, we had a lot of deals with, like, Italy and Germany and Japan, before we went to war with them. And when you go to war with somebody, basically, all deals are off, whether you shook hands or not. So that's just the way it goes. So, I mean, right now we got a crisis there. I mean, Jay Johnson, Obama's former Secretary of HUD, said he would have a bad day. He would have a bad day if he looked at the numbers when he first got into the office and there were more than 1,000 interdictions the day before. 1,000. Now there are over 4,500 per day interdictions at the border. He says, and he went on and he said, and it kind of pissed off some liberals, he says, I couldn't imagine what that would be like, having 4,000, interdictions a day of people crossing the border illegally. He goes, I wouldn't even know what to do with that. And that's the point. Nobody knows what to do with it. There's no room for these people. There's no room to house them. There's no room to even detain them. They could barely detain them long enough to fingerprint them and check them through the system, because there's standing room only at a lot of these facilities. So, I mean, everybody says, well, they say we can only hold them for 20 days. Well, they're not even holding them for 20 days. Hey, Irina Linsky, how you doing there, young lady? Good seeing you. But we can't even hold them for 20 days. There's not enough room. The Inspector General for the Border Patrol went down there last week, and he wasn't happy. I mean, he's the kind of guy who can make heads roll. And he saw people standing room only in these rooms, for literally a day, full day, 2 days, 3 days. People having to stand up on toilets. Nobody could use the toilet. Guy standing on top of it to try to get some air. So, I mean, these people, as soon as they book them, process them, they're releasing them. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's happening that fast. And there's over 1,000 migrant families per family migrant units, individuals rather. So 1,000 members of migrant families are being released per day, every day, right now. That's according to ICE. So do the math. 1,000 times 365 days, 365,000 people being released every year right now. That's what's going on. Meanwhile, the U.S. has fulfilled promises to remove India from a privileged trading program known as the Generalized System of Preferences, or GSP, saying New Delhi has failed to provide equitable and reasonable access to its markets. Oh, good. Excellent. Let's see, China thing. But the main thing was the Mexico thing I really wanted to cover out of this Wall Street Journal article. And that's important. So I think there's another story right by that I wanted to cover. Where was it? Let me see if I can get it. I mean, I'll just jump back on here real quick here. Boom. All right, let me just, so you guys don't have to watch like the screen going back and forth and crap while I'm pulling the story up. So let me just get this real quick here. Anyway, but a live call-in show, 775-273-8970. Let's see, Bart, where is it now? All right, let me, yeah, here we go. Let me pull this story up real quick. All right, let me jump back over to this. Boom. All right, it's also in the description how I talked about how Barr was wanting to find out what was going on with the Mueller report. The Washington Times did a pretty good job on this story, kind of breaking out the different players and stuff. That's why I wanted to cover it for you guys. When I didn't read the whole thing, but I was skimming through it, and I liked how they broke out the names of Strzok and everything, and their take on stuff. Strzok, Comey, McCabe, etc. So let's take a look at this. It's always nice because you hear a lot of noise on TV. Hear a lot of noise on YouTube, and sometimes it's just nice to just get some good reporting on it, just so you kind of have a basis for what you're hearing. So when you hear a story or you hear somebody lying about a story, you can actually say, well, no, those aren't the facts. Let's take a look at this. Let's see. Let's see. What is Aaron say? They're turning a lot of them back into Mexico after printing and getting basic info. Saw it on Border Network News. Okay. Well, that's good news. Okay, that's good news. Yeah, now the only problem is I know they can't deport children. So are these, Irina, on that story, are they just the adults? I mean, adults without children? Because they can't leave the children alone. They have to keep them as a family unit. That's my understanding. But I mean, if they're able to do that, that's fantastic news. At least they're getting them out of the United States and back to Mexico. Because I know we had to deal with Mexico, where, in fact, we got a decent court ruling out of the Ninth Circuit that said it was okay for them, for these people to send them to Mexico to wait in Mexico for their asylum claims. So I know that just came down from the Ninth Circuit. I covered that about a week and a half ago. And it was pretty surprising. I was shocked to read it came from the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit said it was okay for us to send these people to Mexico, to stay in Mexico, to wait their asylum claims being processed. And because during the trial, Mexico, they had information from Mexico saying they were going to, get them jobs and housing and stuff like that while they're waiting. So the court was satisfied that it was humane, that these people weren't just being tossed into the desert on the other side of the border of Mexico and left to fend for themselves. So hopefully that it was kind of murky about how soon they're going to start that back up again, or if they're going to allow it to go through, because I know there was an injunction initially holding it up. But the Ninth Circuit made its ruling and said, and I think they had to overturn the district court's ruling for the injunction, and I think they allowed it to go through. So, but that would be good news, because those border patrol stations, Las Cruces and El Paso, along the border areas, I mean, they're just inundated, and of course, like San Diego, they're going to send people to San Diego, and then the shelter in San Diego said, oh, we all got the flu, please don't send anybody. They were going to try to send people to Miami and to northern Florida. And, oh, no, we can't handle, we don't have any room. I know it's a national crisis, but really to them it isn't. To them it's just a crisis along the border. They could, they obviously don't seem to care too much about their fellow Americans in the other states. They don't want to share any of the pain that we're having to go through on a grand scale. So anyway, let's take a look at this story. All right. Oh, let's try that again. There we go. All right. How much did the FBI rely on a discredited Trump-Russia dossier? Barr intends to find out. There's a picture of Bill Barr. That guy looks like he has not ever skipped a meal. Just saying. Anyway. Okay, by Rowan Scarborough of the Washington Times. The public knows that the FBI relied extensively on the Democratic Party finance dossier, whose list of anti-Trump allegations influenced the Bureau's overall attitude toward the candidate and eventual president. Now, Attorney General William Barr has made it clear he wants to know more. Just how far did the discredited dossier take the FBI into the depths of a nearly 3-year Trump investigation? What were the standards that were applied? What was the evidence? Mr. Barr told CBS News, adding that his focus is not on the rank and file, but on senior FBI leaders. Dossier writer Christopher Steele, a former British intelligence officer, was a trusted FBI paid informant before the Trump-Russia mess. He pitched his dossier to the FBI in these terms. This is what he said. Donald Trump was a Russian spy, a co-conspirator, and financier of computer hacking. In other words, he was a traitor and a criminal. And, of course, the FBI is like, oh, okay, yeah, we hate him too, so we'll just run with this. Christopher Steele influenced their attitudes. Representative Jim Jordan, an Ohio Republican, told the Washington Times, remember, they had a relationship with Steele. Steele was former MI6, so Steele probably biased them in some way because they had worked with Steele previously. And plus, they hated Trump. They didn't care if it was true or false. They just wanted, they had a hook to hang their hat on, as we say, in law. Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report on an investigation that found no conspiracy effectively destroyed the dossier. That dossier's impact inside FBI headquarters is a topic of investigation by John Durham, the guy who nobody likes, and he likes nobody apparently. That's a good thing. It's the kind of U.S. attorney you want. The U.S. attorney for Connecticut, Barr has assigned him to a special job of finding out how and why the FBI targeted the Trump campaign, which means a focus on the dossier. Barr goes on to say, these counterintelligence activities that were directed at the Trump campaign were not done in the normal course and not through the normal procedures, as far as I can tell, Barr said Friday. The Attorney General said he wants Durham to find out what was the predicate for it. In other words, what was the real predicate for it? Was it the dossier? Was there something else they knew? What was going on? He goes, was everyone operating in the proper lane? And what was the evidence? In other words, was there obviously just bias? They just hated Trump so much they're going to do anything to help him lose or make him lose? And then if he managed to win, to try to get him out once he got there? What was, there's all these procedures in place for conducting investigations, especially like a high-profile person like a Donald Trump, who's, at the time when they got the FISA warrants, was the Republican nominee for president of the United States of America. And he's like, there's procedures that are followed in place for just regular folks. And, here we're talking about, a guy who got the Republican nomination for president. I mean, it's just crazy. Let's see. Oh, okay, so Political Adventure, shocking interview about the border crisis. Okay, on Political Adventure. Gotcha. All right. Thanks, Arena, for sure. Thanks so much. Let's see. And then in the Johnson writes, asylum is supposed to be the closest neighboring country from the country they're escaping from. The U.S. is not a neighboring country. Totally agree. In other words, international protocol is not a law. There's no, they break it, nobody goes to prison. But international protocol says that if you're seeking asylum, like you're escaping a country, like your own country, for instance, like say you're escaping America because Comey's out to get you, Jim Comey's out to get you, Andrew McCabe, Rosenstein, they're all out to get you, and you got and it's totally politically, it's crazy, and you're trying to escape. Well, you're supposed to go to the first country you can get to, which makes sense anyway, because you want to get to, you don't have a lot of time. If you're in danger and people are chasing you, well, you just want to get out of there and get to the first country and say, help, asylum, take me in. So, yeah, the asylum claims where these people, skip over Mexico, actually don't skip over it, walk through Mexico, and then get to the United States and say, oh, I need asylum. Well, what the hell is wrong with Mexico? You were there for like 2 weeks. I mean, you couldn't find a place to walk in and say, I need asylum? No, of course not. It's a joke. These people don't need asylum. If they really needed asylum, if they were real asylum seekers and not economic migrants, not just looking for a better life, they'd stop in Mexico. If I'm fleeing the United States and I need asylum, I'm hitting Canada or Mexico. I'm not going to travel through Mexico to get to Panama or, Colombia or something. I'm just going to go to the first country I grab onto, just so I can quick get in there and say, hey, save me, save me. So these people don't need any saving. They're fed a bill of goods. Saying you get here and get some free stuff. They're not the typical immigrants, even illegal immigrants we had just 15 years ago. I did a show on that back a week ago, last Monday, and just showed the difference in the type of immigrants, education levels, the lack of family ties, and historical ties to the United States. The whole family unit coming across versus like young men coming across. You don't need a lot of services, whether healthcare or public school education or anything like that, versus family units coming across. They need all of the above, and food and clothing and shelter and everything right off the bat. So so this asylum thing is just nonsense. And as I said last night, the sad part is, for people who are really seeking asylum, like, real asylum seekers, like people who are like, oh shit, I really need asylum. The whole process is so backlogged, the real people can't get their applications processed. So someone who really needs asylum, maybe somebody we did business with, maybe somebody that we helped and they helped us, and they're trying to get asylum and they're getting to the border, and there's another, from just today, 4,500 people all saying they need asylum, and all those claims have to be processed equally. It's just backing up everybody. These people don't care. They're just selfish. I don't care if it doesn't help this guy. I just want to come, But yeah, I totally agree. You're supposed to hit the first country. The first country you get to, that's where you're supposed to claim asylum. So even if you're like, say in El Salvador and you hit Guatemala first, well, you're supposed to stop in Guatemala and ask for asylum there. Because asylum doesn't mean like, hey, I need money, I don't have a job. And you can say, well, Guatemala doesn't have any work. Well, no, that's not what asylum is about. Asylum is about, getting safety, because somebody, the government or political parties or factions or whoever are trying to kill you. It's not like, I want to get to America. I want to see. I don't want to stop in Guatemala. That's not so good. I don't want to stop in Mexico. That's only a little bit better. No, I want to go to the United States. But then you want safety and security. You want asylum. Well, yeah, but while I'm getting asylum, I might as well be in a really great place. It's like, oh, thanks. Just screw up our entire economy. All right. So let's see. Then Barr went on to belittle the FBI's decision to place an informant on campaign volunteer George Papadopoulos. Yeah, that was that Misford guy and his hot-looking babe girlfriend. In fact, Barr kind of teases that out a little bit when he says he referred to the operation as dangling a confidential informant in front of a peripheral player in the Trump campaign. That was in March. That was March of 2016. So all this bullshit about the FBI investigation began in July of 2016. Bullshit. Was Misford just acting on his own? Just came up with this idea, said, well, I'm over here in Malta, doing not much of anything. And, this guy Papadopoulos, who the hell? Oh, yeah, I don't know this guy, but I'll just go up and talk to him and see if he wants to buy some Clinton emails. For no freaking reason. No, this whole operation was starting way before July. This whole thing, Misford's talking to him in March. Actually, Steele gets his admonishment from the FBI regarding this whole mess on February 2nd. February 2nd, one day after the Iowa caucus, where Trump came in number 2 in the caucus behind Ted Cruz. And so February 2nd. And again, this didn't start February 1st. Okay? So, you're going back to like December 2017, when these guys are already putting this whole thing together. July, they needed a hook to have a formal investigation set up where they could call it a big code name and all this crap. And that was the WikiLeaks leaking the emails of Clinton right during the Democratic convention. But, trust me, this thing was going on way before that. Unless you can say Misford and Stefan Halper and all these guys are just working on their own for no freaking good reason. No, that's BS. And that's what these guys are afraid of. Because all the testimony they've given to Congress and everybody else, and probably to the Inspector General under oath, is all bullshit at this point. I'd let you know we don't take any unknown person phone calls. So if you're calling in, you need to be calling with a phone number. So no unknown person phone calls. So again, this thing starts in March. Steele is admonished on February 2nd, and they claim that, the investigation didn't begin until July of 2016. Nonsense. All right, so let's see. Mr. Barr said the investigation is not FBI-wide, but is focused on a small group at the top, and a lot of the people who were involved are no longer there. Though he mentioned no names, it was clear reference to former FBI Director James Comey, former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, and former Assistant Director Peter Strzok, who started the Trump investigation. One reason he appointed Mr. Durham, the Attorney General said, is that the prosecutor has the power to compel former officials to testify. The Justice Department Inspector General does not. He can only compel people who work there. But these guys are all gone, so we can't do anything to get their testimony. The dossier isn't the official reason given for why the FBI started this Trump journey. BS. But beginning in July 16th, the dossier material was widely circulated and landed at the FBI and Justice Department headquarters, the White House, Congress, the State Department, and various news bureaus in D.C. Again, it was at the White House. Joe Biden was the liaison person for the White House with DOJ and the FBI. That's Joe Biden's job. Again, as I said, this whole investigation was just a sham. It was just to provide real-time intelligence to the Clinton campaign. And Stefan Halper, who did this once before, and again, I'm a big Ronald Reagan fan, first guy I got to vote for in 1984. But in 1980, they had one debate with Jimmy Carter. He had one debate with Jimmy Carter. Carter was not going to debate Reagan before the election, but they saw the internal numbers, and they saw Reagan was coming up fast. So Carter got desperate. He said, okay, I'll do one debate. Well, Stefan Halper, that name should sound familiar. He's involved in this whole mess here in 2016, talking to Page, talking to Corsi, talking to Papadopoulos. He's a professor. He's also worked for the CIA. He's been working with the CIA since the 70s. Old guy, like some out of a bad spy movie. Well, anyway, Stefan Halper in 1980, you remember the CIA hated Carter. Carter came in 77. That was after the whole CIA mess with Laos and all that stuff. And MK Ultra came public and the Byrd hearings, the Bai hearings, rather. So Carter was going to clean up the CIA. I think he fired like 3,000 agents. Bam, just took them out. So the CIA had, wanted to get rid of Carter, just like they didn't want Trump to win. The leadership of the CIA also wanted Carter gone. So Stefan Halper, who was working with the Trump campaign, with the Reagan campaign in 1980. I hate saying this, but this is true. It's called DebateGate. This came out in 1983, and in fact, I think I blanked it out of my memory because it was Ronald Reagan. But anyway, Stefan Halper, what he did, he stole President Carter's debate preparation materials. Because if you're old enough like I am to have watched that debate in 1980, Reagan cleaned Carter's clock. Every time Carter said something, Reagan had the right answer. He was guessed so right all the time. It was like boom, boom, boom. And, there you go again, Jimmy, Social Security. He knew everything Carter was going to say. Now, I'm not saying they told Reagan that they stole this stuff, But the staff that was prepping Reagan, and Reagan was a very much on-script person, you know, they knew everything Carter was going to say at that debate. They stole all his debate preparation materials. So here's 2016, enter Stefan Halper. And again, if they weren't going to make this dossier public prior to November 8th, remember, Steele got in trouble with the FBI because he was trying to make it public. He was trying to shop it around. And they fired him. They said, no, man, you can't do this. You cannot make this public. So if they weren't going to use this, if they were going to make it public before November 8th, 2016, where it could have hurt the president like that stupid TMZ video with the president saying you grab women's vaginas and stuff. If they weren't going to use it before November 8th, what were they using it for? If they weren't going to make it public, what they were using it for was to be able to get intel on the Trump campaign, real-time intel on the Trump campaign, debate preparation, speeches, locations, strategies, donors, all those kind of things. Because everything's going through email. So you get the warrant initially on Carter Page. Maybe you're wiretapping her before you even get the damn warrant. I mean, we still don't know exactly what happened. We don't know if all these people were wiretapped before the warrants even came in. We don't even know if that was the first warrant they got was in September anyway. We don't know any of this stuff. We know this whole thing was working back in February of 2016. And so were they tapping these phones then? Were they listening? But anyway, how it works with a FISA warrant, remember, President Obama talked about this when that guy went to Russia. I always forget this guy's name. They made a movie about him, the guy that leaked the NSA stuff. God, if somebody remembers the guy's name, I'm sorry. But anyway, hey, disabled vet, how you doing down there? Good seeing you. But what's the guy who leaked all this stuff to WikiLeaks from the NSA, and then he took off to Russia and China. They made a movie about him. I don't know. But anyway, that guy. But anyway, after that story broke that the NSA were recording everybody's phone call and everybody's emails and everybody's text messages and storing all that information, Obama gave a statement. And what he said it himself, was that, don't worry, I talked to NSA. They're only going to go 3 levels out past the target. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. Okay, so they get Carter Page. Well, Carter, they don't give a shit what Carter Page is saying, but this is what they care about. They can go say 3. I think Obama said 3 or 4 levels out. Okay, so you figure the first level, there's Carter Page. He's a target. And then for 1 level out, Carter Page say he talks to 20 people. Remember, everybody's phone calls stored going back 10, 20, 30 years. So Carter Page talks to say 20 people, maybe 30, just say 20. And then each of those 20 people, that's level 1. So those 20 people, you can listen to their phone calls. Then the next level from that, level 2, each of those 20 people say talk to 20 people. Okay, so that's now 20 to the second power. Then the third level is each of those 20 talk to 20 people. That's 20 to the third power. If you get to the fourth power, it's 20 to the fourth power. All those people, you can listen to their phone calls. Okay, at some point, you're getting to Donald Trump, you're getting to Kellyanne Conway, you're getting to Paul Manafort, you're getting to the other guy who Lewandowski. You're getting to all those people. You're getting to the people working back in Manhattan at Trump Tower, working at the campaign headquarters. You're getting all those phone calls. You're getting all those emails, all those text messages going out to the campaign trail. I mean, they're not delivering by courier or by Pony Express. This stuff's going over the airwaves. So they're using that. Halper's involved in it. It's going from the FBI, DOJ, White House. Joe Biden's liaison at the White House. He's the one who called the January 5th meeting, January 5th, 2017, where Obama was president, Susan Rice was president, Valerie Jarrett was president, Comey, NSA was president, DNI, Clapper, and Brennan were present. The January 5th meeting in the White House. The one Susan Rice wrote herself an email about 1 hour before they closed her account on the day President Trump got inaugurated. You can think about that, okay? So anyway, that said she was kind of a CYA thing because she knew that meeting was kind of goofy and kind of screwed up. So anyway, so then Biden's collecting the information at the White House. Of course, Obama's approved all this. And again, if you don't think he has, all these people are worried. Remember when they were getting ready to get fired? They were worried about their pensions. Oh, don't fire him yet. He needs another month to get his pension and all this crap. These guys, all these civil servants, aren't going to risk their pensions by spying on an opposition party's presidential nominee unless they have proof, cover from the White House, cover from the president saying it's okay to do this. And remember, Strzok's text message saying to Page saying, I'm going to the White House. POTUS wants to be in the loop. President of the United States, President Barack Obama. So anyway, so the information gets to Biden. Now, Obama's not talking to the Clinton campaign because he's not stupid, and he'll use a fall guy like Biden. Biden's talking to the Clinton campaign, so it goes up, goes over to the Clinton campaign. Again, you need somebody sleazy over there, somebody you can trust, somebody who's not going to dime you out. Who's that? John Podesta. Okay, name somebody sleazier than him. John Podesta is over the Clinton campaign. That information is going up, going over to the Clinton campaign. They're using it for real time. Hence the reason why Hillary Clinton looked so frustrated during the debates. She had the script. Now here's the great thing about Trump. Trump doesn't listen to anybody. He doesn't take anybody's advice, and he sure as shit isn't going to read off somebody's script. So he gets up on the he gets on the debate stage. Whatever script they gave him, he didn't follow. So she's following his script, thinking, okay, I'm going to counter everything he says, and I know what he's going to say in response to this, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Trump doesn't stay on script for anybody, and so he's just doing his own thing, and she doesn't know how to handle it. She's getting totally frustrated, and he's cleaning her clock. So it was kind of reverse Reagan, Jimmy Carter in a way, kind of how it worked out. But I mean, that's my opinion as far as what they were using this for. If they weren't using it to make it go public before November 8th to hurt the campaign, then what the hell were they using it for? Because everybody damn well knows that if she had won the election, they would not have continued on with this investigation. They wouldn't have kept going, oh, well, she won, but, we're going to check this out. No, of course not. The investigation would have ended November 9th if she had won on November 8th. Okay, so they were using it for that, to give an excuse to get information, then to shoot it over to the Clinton campaign for them to use. And the insurance policy, remember, okay, well, we have an insurance policy if he wins. So what does that mean? I mean, it's an insurance policy if he wins. It means we're doing something to help him lose, but if he wins. So what they were doing to help him lose, we shoot it to the Clinton campaign. If he does win, we have an insurance policy. We'll make his presidency so scandal-ridden. He'll be on his back acting all defensive the whole time. Won't be able to get anything done. But then again, nobody knows Donald Trump. The guy can do 20 things at once. He didn't get paralyzed by all these investigations, even when they're looking at his kids. He kept going forward and getting great things done. Hey, Mr. Great Douchebag, how you doing there? Good seeing you there in the chat room as well. So anyway, let's go and jump over to the next story. Oh wait, no, hold on. Let me stay on this because they get to some detail down here. Okay, so the FBI and the dossier. The FBI received continuous dossier updates from Mr. Steele and from Fusion GPS, Mrs. Clinton's opposition research firm that handled Mr. Steele. The FBI recruited Mr. Steele to keep investigating Trump after the election, even though it scored the former spy's reliability as low. The FBI, among other agencies, attached the dossier to the intelligence community's final verdict that Moscow hacked Democratic Party computers. Mr. Jordan, one of a key group of Republicans who have pushed the FBI for answers, said the Bureau knew through contact that Mr. Steele was desperate to bring down Mr. Trump before it cited the dossier to obtain the first wiretap. The guy they are getting the dossier from that they then use to get the warrant, he's got an extreme bias against the president, Jordan says. So I think it all comes together, and you get what we now understand was his effort to go after the president. 4 key points of the FBI's timeline. July 31st, Strzok kicked off FBI's investigation into Trump based on information from Australian Ambassador Alexander Downer in London. Now, this is important. Watch this one. Downer said Trump volunteer Papadopoulos told him over a glass of wine that he had heard the Russians might have dirt on Mrs. Clinton. Check that out. This is how this whole thing worked. Misford, the guy working for the FBI, an FBI informant, told Papadopoulos. He's the one who told Papadopoulos, "Hey, do you want to buy some emails on the from Hillary Clinton from the Russians? The Russians have the Clinton emails." It was the FBI informant telling Papadopoulos. So even if Papadopoulos told this Australian guy that, he was just relating information from the FBI told him. He didn't know this guy was FBI, but this guy was FBI. He was an FBI paid informant, him and his girlfriend that was flirting with Papadopoulos, okay, over a glass of wine at the other trip. So anyway, so Papadopoulos tells this guy, the Australian ambassador, the ambassador goes, "Oh, this is crazy." He tells the FBI, FBI goes, "Oh, he did? Oh, really?" No shit, of course he did, because you told him about the stupid, phony Russian, this phony story that the Russians had emails on Clinton. But that guy Misford wasn't working with the Russians; he was working with the FBI. So when the FBI got that information from Downer, they knew damn well it was their own planted information, but yet they used that as a reason to open up the investigation. That's how full of shit this is. Think about that. Oh, really, Mr. Downer? He said that? Well, we better open an investigation. Even though they knew it was them that planted that information in Papadopoulos' head, because they're the ones who told him. The Russians he never met with a single real Russian. Okay? Trust me, that was in the Mueller report. Papadopoulos never met with a real Russian person offering to sell emails on Hillary Clinton. The only person he met with were phony guys. Halper, FBI informant, CIA, and this guy Misford, this Maltese professor, and his girlfriend, also FBI informant. And so anybody saying we have emails, they weren't real Russians. They were FBI people. So there was no reason to open up the investigation, considering Strzok knew that Papadopoulos got the information from his own informant. It wasn't real. But that's why they're saying, oh, we better open an investigation. Bullshit. They didn't need to. Hey, Black and Irish Crazy, how you doing? So, I mean, this whole thing was based on bullshit, and the FBI knew it was bullshit because they're the ones who planted the story they planted the story to Papadopoulos that the Russians had the Clinton emails. When it was their own damn agents, their own informants, their own assets telling Papadopoulos this. So there's no reason to open the investigation to begin with on July 31st, even though obviously they had been doing something, some counter-intel stuff prior to July 31st because Mitford was working with the FBI before then. Okay, so by that time, Strzok likely possessed other information, okay? Michael Gaeta traveled to London from his Rome base to meet Steele, who was eager to start funneling his Trump conspiracy to the Obama administration. Obama's State Department approved the session. Yeah, I mean, the FBI is already had already met with him on July 5th. Okay, Steele began writing dossier memos the previous month after he was hired by Fusion. By July 5th, he had written at least one memo to allege that Trump was receiving an intel on Clinton from the Kremlin. In other words, a Trump-Russia conspiracy. I had to report this to headquarters, Gaeta told Steele, according to Michael Isikoff and David Corn book, Russia Roulette. That month, Steele would add memos alleging an extensive conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin, a conspiracy Mr. Mueller didn't find because it never existed. Okay, it was just all made-up bullshit. October 21st, FBI executed his first wiretap on former Trump volunteer Page. Comey signed the application to a judge in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act court. The application relied heavily on what Mr. Steele said about Page. The application stated at the top, quote-unquote, verified application, which was not. And in fact, Comey, when he testified, said he didn't even read the application, didn't know anything about it. But anyway, all right, let me get to another story here real quick. Let's see, let me jump here. All right. Oh, live call-in show, 273-8970. I have some issues I do want to discuss, but it's open topic. So if anybody has anything else they want to discuss, that'll be fine. Let's see here. All right. Yeah, just like I said, we don't take any unknown person phone calls, so you just need to call in with a real phone number. All right, let me just jump over here, and I can just bunch. Let's see. All right. So let me just go through here and just check. Anyway, again, you guys don't have to watch the making of the sausage, so I can just pull these stories up real quick here. Let's see. What else did I want to cover? Let's cover the... All right, this is a story here in the Washington Times regarding the presidential candidates and their stances on abortion. So let's take a look at this. Albeit the headline is a little bit misleading, just to let you know. So let me grab some water real quick. And a cigarette. All right, let's cover this. So, Democratic presidential candidates come to their senses on abortion. Again, headline is a little misleading, but you'll see why when we get through it. All right, so this is from Charles Hurt of the Washington Times, June 2nd. Analysis opinion. I like Charlie Hurt. You see him a lot of times on Fox. He's on Brent Barrett's show a lot. On the, I think it's the, I'm going to say the 6 o'clock Eastern Time news time. Anyway, Democrats running for president have taken a shockingly sensible position on the most deeply divisive issue in American politics for the past half-century. Threatened by a slew of new state laws around the country making it legal to perform late-term abortions after his baby's hearts have begun beating. Where we go. Democrats have seized on a new tactic for ensuring that they can preserve the constitutional right to abortion up to the moment of birth. and even after, according to some Democrat politicians, so as long as the newborn is, quote-unquote, kept comfortable while the grown-ups decide how best to dispose of the live baby. Yeah, that's true. That's actually what they're talking about. Montana, they tried passing a law that said if the baby survives an abortion, like miraculously survives the abortion, is on the table alive, crying, like right there in your face, alive. There's a live baby there. They said that the legislature passed, voted on a bill saying that the people performing the abortion would have to seek immediate medical care for the kid. I mean, it sounds common sense. You got a live baby there. I don't care if you try to kill it or not; it's still alive. And the Democratic governor vetoed the bill. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, who would be against that? I mean, I'm sorry. You don't want the kid at that point. I mean, you can't kill the kid and that you can let it die. That's called manslaughter. Okay. It's called negligent homicide. Anyway, this novel new approach Democrats have suddenly discovered while desperately campaigning for president is to take the issue to Congress and pass legislation that would enshrine abortion rights into federal law. And this is Klobuchar. I would make sure that we are codifying Roe versus Wade into law. Klobuchar, Minnesota Democrat, said when asked about new laws in states like Iowa and Ohio and Louisiana that are chipping away at the recreational abortion that has become the cornerstone of the Democrat Party's platform. Others, including Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, Kristen Gillibrand of New York, have jumped wildly into this radical bandwagon of turning to Congress to hammer out abortion laws in America. There we go. That's right. Against all odds, a handful of Washington politicians have stumbled accidentally into doing the right thing. Of course, turning to the legislature to make abortion laws has been the pro-life position of conservatives from the very beginning. That is, after all, exactly what frustrated voters in Missouri and Alabama and Utah are doing today by passing new limits on abortions in their states. The whole reason abortion became the single most divisive issue in America nearly 50 years ago is that those activist judges, the very ones supported by politicians like Klobuchar and Warren and Spartacus, it's Cory Booker, and Ms. Gillibrand, stripped the issue out of the hands of voters, giving sole discretion of the issue to unelected judges in black robes. Geniuses on the Supreme Court, of course, managed to find abortion as some kind of guaranteed sacred right in a document that never once mentions the gruesome procedure. And for all those thinking out there that abortion did not exist at the time, that's nonsense. I remember when I was researching this back in the 80s when I was in college, there were actually papers written on abortions being performed back in the early 1800s. So it wasn't like they didn't know anything about it. Okay, so they said, well, they didn't have abortions back then. Well, actually, you don't really hear anybody really make that pitch too much because people know they did. Anyway, they just, the founding fathers are not going to make it a constitutional right, that's for sure. The very same politicians who still see this phantom right to abortion in the Constitution today are also the first to go blind about gun rights, which are clearly spelled out in actual words in the Second Amendment. It's kind of weird. I mean, they'll look for, they can't find the words for abortion rights, but when the exact words are right in front of them on gun rights in the Second Amendment, they say, well, that means something else. So it's really great to see so many Democrats finally come to their senses and join the good, long struggle of returning the issue of abortion to voters. Of course, the moment they discover the wisdom of the newfound strategy, they will surely abandon it. Yeah, no kidding. Oh, God. All right, let's see here. Here's breaking news. Breaking news, everybody. I'm sure this was everybody's concern in the Trump campaign. Maryland's Governor Hogan rules out GOP primary challenge to Trump in 2020. I'm sure everybody was like really worried about this one. So let's take a look. This is actually from yesterday. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan announced Saturday he won't challenge President Trump for the Republican Party presidential nomination in 2020. Mr. Hogan, who's 63 years old, said he will instead start a national nonprofit advocacy organization called In America United. He goes on to say, I truly appreciate all of the encouragement I receive from people around the nation urging me to consider making a run for president. All of the encouragement from people? Like how many? Like maybe his wife who wanted him out of the house? Maybe a couple of friends of his? Maybe some enemies of his? Maybe people who don't want him staying in Maryland anymore? I don't know. But trust me, it was not a groundswell of support for this guy. It wasn't like he was, people were beating down the door saying, run, Hogan, run. Run, Hogan, run. No, it wasn't happening. So, but anyway, he goes, however, though, even though everybody's urging me to do this, and I got a lot of support, and everybody wants me to do this, and this is the right thing, I will not be a candidate. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, he said he will focus on his second term as governor and his post as incoming chairman of the National Governors Association. Hogan had been exploring the possibility of a primary challenge to Trump, which would have gone nowhere, traveling to New Hampshire in April to speak at an event considered important for presidential hopefuls. New Hampshire will hold the traditional first-in-the-nation primary in February 2020, of course, after the Iowa caucus. Let's see. People have asked me to give this some serious thought, and I think I owe it to them to give it serious consideration, Hogan said at the time of a presidential bid. What a great guy. But the idea didn't gain traction among Republican voters. No shit. We got a winner. We got a winning guy right in front of us. Why are we gonna try to do Ted Kennedy like in 1980 what he did to Jimmy Carter? You know, which definitely hurt Carter going into the general election against Reagan. Without a doubt, it totally did. The governor said he will focus instead on working on the direction of my party and our nation through the new advocacy group. I also want to play a major national role in the years ahead, both within my own party and in the path our country takes. Well, I can't listen to this guy. But anyway, yeah, just want to give you an idea on that. Let's see. Oh, here's a story from my home state here, state of Nevada. And the reason why this is kind of important is that, you know, that whole national popular vote thing, people saying like the states were voting so that their electors would have to vote the way the majority of the nation voted by popular vote, not by electors. So basically, I'm here in Nevada. We're pretty much we have one big city, Las Vegas, but trust me, it's the amount of money it costs to come to Las Vegas to campaign. You can spend the same amount of money in Los Angeles and pick up far more votes. You know, get more bang for the buck. So our Democratic governor amazingly actually vetoed a bill that had passed along party lines in both our state assembly and state senate to make us one of those national popular votes states. And so Sisolak's like, well, I guess we'll see. The whole thing about the Electoral College is why the founding fathers wanted it, was because they knew that if somebody's running for president or for national office, that if the state didn't have a large population, like large population centers, the candidates wouldn't go out there to try to get their votes. And when I say try to get their votes, I mean be answerable to the people's concerns of that state. Like, for instance, a big concern here in Nevada is water. We're in a desert. And the big issue with water that deals with other states is the Colorado River. I mean, every year people are arguing about which state should get more water, who should get less. I mean, it's a big deal. Water is really important out here. And so, if the candidates running for president don't have to pay attention to Nevada, so in other words, when it comes time to actually maybe make a decision at the federal level to say, well, the hell with Nevada, I mean, I'm not even going to campaign there. I'm not going to listen to their issues. I'm not going to address any of their concerns. So you can have a whole bunch of states whose concerns and issues and needs aren't going to be met. You can basically have, the presidential campaigns going out to the East Coast and the West Coast because you get more bang for the buck. You have limited amount of money on the campaign trail. And if you can go to a city that has 4 million people or 3 million people or 5 million people versus a city that has maybe 200,000 people and it costs the same amount for security and setup and travel, well, you're going to go out to the city with 4 million, And so Sisolak recognized that, thank God. Otherwise, we would have been a big flyover state. So Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak surprised onlookers Thursday, including me, by vetoing a bill to join the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, saying it would reduce the influence of low-population states like his in presidential contests. Exactly. The agreement, he said, would upset the framers' balance between small and large states and could leave a sparsely populated western state like Nevada with a greatly diminished voice in the outcome of national electoral contests. For these reasons, in the best interest of the great state of Nevada, I veto this bill and return it without my signature or approval, Sisolak said in a signing statement. The Democratic governor became the first this year to reject the national popular vote, which would require electors in states that join the compact to vote for the presidential candidate who wins the popular vote instead of the candidate who captures the state popular vote. My statement on Assembly Bill 186, over the past several weeks, my office has heard from thousands of Nevadans across the state urging me to weigh the state's role in our national elections. After thoughtful deliberation, I've decided to veto Assembly Bill 186. Governor Sisolak, May 30th, 2019. Yay, I couldn't believe that. This state turned blue literally in 2018. We were a red state forever. We just recently turned blue. As far as our state houses, I mean, we voted Let's see, Nevada went for, I want to say Nevada went for Obama in 2008 and 2012, but our state houses were always Republican. State Assembly, State Senate, and our governor. And so, going blue for me means more than just, those are, gun laws, Medicaid bills, state regulations. That for me, that's almost as important as the presidential election. Let's see. Oh, I think anybody who wears the "Make America Great Again" hat is going to like this story. Let's see. Grab another cigarette real quick. And see that guy that looks just like me. Actually, it looked like me. I wasn't sure if that was me in that picture when I first saw this story. I'm like, hey, is that me? Let me bring it up a little bit for you. I mean, it was kind of like, it looked like me. I'm thinking, like, what event was I at? But nonetheless. But here, let me grab a cigarette. Let's see. Maybe we smart fucking people who aren't Democrats should go to idiotic third world loving cities, show people the truth. Let's see. Why that? Yeah, just Ethan Johnson, just kind of keep it clean in the chat room there for me, if you could. Hey, look, I use that word as often as anybody else on this site. It's just that it was on ink, if you will, if it's on the chat room. I don't need YouTube using it some kind of bullshit excuse. On us here. It's a conservative site, and so. I mean, we're a liberal site. We could do anything we wanted to get away. I mean, you could say anything we wanted, do anything we wanted, nobody, and like, oh, we didn't see anything. Nothing to see there. But us is like boom, boom, boom. That kind of stuff. All right, Trump campaign ready and waiting while Democrats prepare for long and bruising battle. All right, let's see here. President Trump's re-election campaign soon will hit a milestone for swag, the sale of the 1 millionth iconic Make America Great Again hat. Think about that. That's pretty cool. While peddling $25 ball caps on the internet alone doesn't win an election, the merchandising benchmark is one indication of Mr. Trump's huge head start over a Democratic field of 24 major candidates competing against one another for money and volunteers. From its headquarters in Arlington, Virginia, Mr. Trump's re-election team is kicking into high gear, collecting data on millions of voters, dispatching foot soldiers to battleground states, and staffing the Beltway Nerve Center with sweeping views of the swamp Mr. Trump vowed to drain. Well, you got to go with the professionals. So be it. The president's campaign says its digital operation in deep pockets give it a powerful advantage over its eventual rival, whether the Democratic nominee is former Vice President Joe Biden, an ambition senator, or a well-spoken mayor from Indiana. That person is going to get beat up from the primary. They will be broke because it will take every penny they've got to get there. They won't have a national operation to flip a switch on and get moving, said Tim Murtaugh, the Trump campaign's director of communications. Victoria's Secrets? Hey, Victoria's Secrets. There we go. His office on the 14th floor of a high-rise features a small army of young staffers plus experienced public relations folks poached from the White House, Capitol Hill, and elsewhere. The communications war room is a bit empty right now, though the campaign plans to fill in rows of workstations beneath flat-screen TVs blaring the latest news from Fox News or CNN. Unpacked boxes lined an in-house studio last week, though top aides will soon enough conduct TV hits without having to leave the building. The campaign's broad goal is clear. Lock down states that Mr. Trump won in 2016. Lockdown states that Trump won in 2016, think Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, while looking to expand the map into places such as New Mexico, Colorado, and Minnesota. It helps that Mr. Trump has now Minnesota. He came close to winning. I mean, he barely lost Minnesota, if you remember from just a couple of years ago. It helps that Mr. Trump hasn't stopped campaigning. No, it's great. His trademark rallies and big crowds are tailor-made for the TV cameras, though they also serve a practical purpose. They are great for enlisting campaign volunteers and for mining contact data from ticket holders. Yeah, I mean, I've been to 2 Trump rallies, and when you have to sign up to get your ticket. And, you put all your information in there, and you know why you're giving it. You're giving it so they have a contact, they have email contact, text message contacts. And when they do an event, they can send out these big emails and text messages to you saying, hey, we're coming to your town, or we're going to, we're going to be in Vegas in in a week. And if you want to come down and check it out, you can, get an advance ticket so you can get in there and stuff. And I'm fine with that because, I want to stay on top of what the campaign's doing. So every time you go to a rally, you have to sign up to get one of those tickets. boom, they have all your contact info, and they can immediately contact you when they're doing something or they need some volunteers or something. So it's really these rallies are great on several different fronts. Let's see. We can isolate a group of swing voters and target each one, knock on every door, call every phone line, and know the universe of persuadables, said National Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany. We think to the great effect that we will make contact with 26 million people, voters. Mr. Trump will formally kick off his reelection campaign June 18th in the battleground state of Florida. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. He will rally with supporters in the 20,000-seat Amway Center in Orlando. Oh, that's going to be a party. In the heart of a must-win state for him, flanked by First Lady Melania Trump, Vice President Mike Pence, and his wife Karen. Yet Mr. Trump has been building his campaign treasury for some time. His campaign in the Republican National Committee ended the first quarter of fundraising with a total of $82 million in the bank. Among Democratic hopefuls, Sanders led with $28 million, and National Democratic Committee only had $9.3 million on hand with $6 million in debts. So basically $3 million in cash. Ugh. Trump swept to victory in 2016 running as an insurgent with an unprecedented resume for a major party nominee, a billionaire real estate mogul turned reality TV star with no political and military experience. See, if liberals can skew words, we can too. Don't be slaves to Democratic rules. Yeah, okay. All right. The campaign argues that he is still an outsider, though he will have a lengthy and controversial political record to defend in 2020. Burchard said that won't change the president's approach. He came to Washington and said he was going to shake it up, he said. It's pretty obvious that the D.C. establishment still doesn't know what to make of him. He will still be the insurgent candidate. He will just have an incumbent's reelection campaign behind him. Democrats, meanwhile, rejected Trump campaign's optimism and his critiques of their operation. The DNC is building the infrastructure necessary for our eventual nominee, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Trump campaign argues that it'll be easy to defend the president's record, saying it boils down to promises made, promises kept. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that slogan. It's not catchy. I've seen it used at a couple of rallies already. And in fact, they used it in Vegas when they were down here prior to the midterms. Promises made, promises kept. It really didn't seem like, hey, there's a guy, Anthony Gonzalez. There's a guy who went with me to the Trump rally in Las Vegas. How you doing there, Anthony? Good seeing you. But hey, good deal, man. But anyway, that promises made, promises kept. Yeah, that slogan really didn't jump out at me. Maybe Anthony, remember they had that up there on the signs and stuff, but down at the rally in Las Vegas we went to, it just it wasn't catchy. You know what I mean? It just didn't really have a lot going on. So they need to come up with a better one. But I don't know. I mean, just keep America great. That'll be good. I mean that's fine with me. I mean that's what the hat says. Keep America great. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da. There you go. So on the other side, the dominant figure is Mr. Biden, who not only leads the primary polling, but also regularly tops Trump in head-to-head polling matchups. Well, of course, everybody's going to lead head-to-head matchups right now because Trump isn't really campaigning. Biden's out there, and right now Biden hasn't really had to take any hits or has had to deal with really anything. I covered that the other day about how the other Democratic candidates are faring against Joe Biden. The Trump campaign says even if Biden runs away from the primary field, he can't run away from shifting stances over his 40 years. That's the whole thing, 40 years plus in politics and leftward lurch of his party. He's got two problems. One, he's got a 40-year record, okay, and trust me, and 40 years of speeches, and not all of them very good. And then, of course, his party has gone way far to the left. And that's where the excitement is in the Democratic Party. So if he thinks he can kind of get away from the left and then those people are going to come out and vote for him in November of 2020, they will stay home, okay? Those people on the far left, if he doesn't give them something, they will stay home. And they'll figure, look, if he loses, then we'll be better positioned in 2024 to say, see, we told you so. You can't put an establishment candidate. You need somebody from our side of the aisle. You need somebody from the far left. And if you're, making America great again. I mean, that was a great slogan. But, that promises made, promises kept. Irina, I don't see him. It's not working for me. I don't know. But anyway. Let's see. They cited a clip of Mr. Biden telling an activist he no longer supports the Hyde Amendment, which bans taxpayer funding for abortion. See, Murlaugh said the person winning the Democratic nomination will have to tilt left on health care, embracing more government intervention, giving Trump's chance to stand for people who like their current plans. I mean, even Harris had to walk that back a little bit. She was doing. I saw her town hall she was doing with Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC, and when everybody said Medicare for all and that everybody has to sign up for this and you can't keep any more private insurance, well, a big portion of the Democratic support is from unions. Well, if you've ever been in a union, I was in the carpenters union, so I know a little bit about this. You get health insurance. You get this great health insurance package, but in order to get that health insurance package, you give up a little bit of salary, of hourly wage. So you say, okay, it's a big negotiating when the union meets with the contractors and stuff, and they say, okay, we want this much for payroll, per hour wages, and we want this healthcare package. So they say, okay, we'll give you the healthcare package, but knock $2 an hour off what you want for your hourly wage, and all that's negotiated. So when they came out and said that, all these unions, who again are huge supporters of the Democratic Party, a lot of money comes from the unions, a lot of staff that man the phones and emails and the mailings and knock on doors come from unions. And unions said, hey, wait a second, we negotiated away our pay raises for this health care package we have through the union and through our employers. We don't like this. So she had to walk that back. It was kind of funny watching her kind of walk that back up there. I guess these candidates forgot about the unions, and they have their own health care. You like to think these people kind of think, a couple of steps ahead. But obviously they weren't thinking about that. But boy, those union people, those union workers, they sure paid attention really fast when they heard that everybody has to get on Medicare and everybody gives up their private coverage. The union guys are like, no way, because when they can't go back to the company and say, oh, we would need to renegotiate, and they said, well, you have to wait till your contract's up. I'm sorry. And the contractors would probably pretty much say, well, you're the ones who voted for these idiots, so now you reap what you sow, and so shall you reap. Boom. There you go. All right, let's see if there's anything else I wanted to cover here tonight. Let's take a look real quick. Let's see. Well, nope, that was pretty much about all the stories I wanted to cover tonight. So I just want to thank everybody who's been in the chat tonight and everybody who'll be watching later. And let me just double check something real quick here. All right, we're good to go there. So anyway, thanks everybody who's been in the chat, everybody who's been viewing, everybody will be viewing later. And thanks for joining us on our Sunday night live call-in Carl Talking show. But I had a really good time, a lot of good stories here, a lot of good information to share with you guys. So until next time, this is Carl for Carl's Opinion. Have a great evening, and let's have a great week this week. Take care. Bye-bye.